Welcome to this short video introduction to the VARC banding program. Our field station is in Colony Farm Regional Park, where we have a large monitoring and banding operation with up to 40 nets and traps. The focus of this video is to show station operations, with particular emphasis on our banding station protocol, code of ethics and management, where above all else, the well-being of every bird is our top priority at all times. The centre of banding operations is our banding pagoda, where we host all of our visitor programs. We operate the station with a wide open door policy for visitors, which means you must have good systems and management in place to ensure bird safety and welfare. As VARC is a registered charity and volunteer organisation, we're very grateful to our sponsors, without whom we wouldn't have a banding operation to conduct our research, conservation and public outreach and education programs. This view of the station shows the banding pagoda in the background and our grill zebo in the foreground, where we conduct special species studies and hummingbird banding, which has also been particularly useful during COVID, allowing us to adhere to the social distancing guidelines and operate the station with 2 teams of 4 people, which has worked really well. Into the pagoda, the hub of banding operations, I'll explain the banding process and some of the key pieces of equipment we use. The first is our band holder for all the various size bands. It's important that the appropriate band size is used for each bird, and all species band sizes are posted on one of the pagoda notice boards. A key piece of equipment is our net tag board. We have a tag for each net, which is attached to the top trammel when the net is opened and replaced on the board at the end of banding when nets are closed. So when all nets are open, the board is empty, and when all nets are closed, the board is full. This provides a fail-safe system to ensure that all nets are closed and furled at the end of each banding session. The next piece of equipment is our duty board, where everyone is signed in and has an assigned role based on their levels assessment. We have a graduated training program to take people from trainees and through to advanced levels to ensure that inexperienced people always have the appropriate supervision. The horizontal poles are to hang bird bags when extraction teams arrive back at the pagoda from net rounds. This is always an exciting time, as you can see. The last piece of equipment to mention is our net round timer board, where timers are set for each net round, which ensures net rounds are done at least every 20 minutes, and all extractors have radios to communicate with the bander in charge at the pagoda. During net rounds, birds are extracted from nets. The Swainson's thrush here with a berry still in its beak. Debbie, one of our senior banders, is lowering the upper trammels to ensure she's not overreaching to extract the bird. An experienced extractor can carefully extract a bird in a matter of seconds. The bird is then placed into a soft cloth bag to take back to the banding pagoda for processing. The bag is tied and a peg attached to indicate which net the bird was extracted from. We also have red priority pegs for hummingbirds, incubating females with fully developed brood patches, or dependent young which need to be processed quickly and returned to the area of the net from which they were extracted. Skilled net extractors like Debbie and Kerry here exemplify everything we teach about the careful handling of birds, and that the welfare of every bird is always our top priority. Back at the pagoda, each bird is registered with the data taker as it arrives back from net rounds, recording the time of the net round and the net from which the bird was extracted. Bird bags are then hung onto the holders to await processing. processing then starts when each bird is extracted from the bag, identified to species and banded with the appropriate band size. Bands are issued by the Federal Bird Banding Office, and each band has a unique number which the bird will wear for the rest of its life. So if the bird is retrapped by us, trapped at another banding station, or found dead and the band reported, we know part of the bird's life history. Dirty bags are put into a separate basket and all bags washed at the end of each session. Band numbers are recorded by the data taker and double checked for each bird. They're opened using small circlip pliers and placed on the bird's right tarsus. The band is then carefully checked to ensure the seam is tightly closed and that the band is moving freely on the tarsus. We take a number of biometric measurements: the length of the unflattened wing, called the wing chord, length of the tail feathers or retrices using a soft plastic rule inserted between the central retrices and moved up until it touches the pygostyle. Each bird is assessed for fat by blowing the feathers of the throat to reveal the furculum, and also assessed for breeding characteristics, which we'll be talking about during session 4 of the workshop. Each bird is then aged and sexed using the techniques we'll be teaching in the workshop. You can see Debbie here doing two things to confirm the age of this bird. One is taking the bird outside into the light to look closely at the wing and tail, and also using mag eyes to age this bird. Mag eyes are essential to see the very subtle differences between individual feathers and feather groups of the wing, and are mandatory for processing birds at VARC. Each bird is then weighed using an appropriately sized tube, which matches the band size, and a digital scale to determine body mass to the nearest tenth of a gram.
29.1.
The bird is then released and sent on its way. All of that data is collected within a couple of minutes. The data is recorded manually at the station, double checked when it's entered into Excel, and then uploaded to the Federal Bird Banding Office Bandit software program. Retract data for previously banded birds is entered directly into the station computer. That process is repeated for each new bird.
So Peewee from net 13.
Again, Debbie showing the banding of this westernwood peewee, checking the band number.
And number 2920. 2920-19924.
Again, checking that the band is closed and fitting properly, then measuring wing chord and tail length. Assessing fat and any breeding characteristics, determining age and sex if possible, and then weighing the bird prior to release. The process for Retract Birds is slightly different. We don't take all of the biometric measurements again, but do assess fat deposits, record any breeding characteristics and body mass. Again, we record retract data directly into the station computer.
Retract and number is 2791 64796.
Just a few minutes to talk about correct net opening and closing procedures. It's important that nets are opened properly with the correct amount of tension and spacing between trammels, and that the bottom trammel is the correct height to ensure that birds are not hanging in wet grass. Nets are opened using sticks to raise the trammels to the correct height, and the tension is adjusted on the net poles. The net tag I mentioned earlier is attached to the top trammel loop and collected and returned to the tag board when the net is closed and furled at the end of the banding session. As our nets stay up when we are not in the park, we use a technique to ensure nets remain tightly furled. After collapsing the net and furling the lower shelves into the top one, we then use a twiddling technique from the centre of the net before tying the net back to adjacent brush. Each end is also tied with ribbon to make sure there are no loose ends. This twiddling technique is very effective and ensures that even if there are strong winds, the net remains tightly wound and no loose netting can escape and accidentally trap a bird. You can see Kerry pedaling the net so that it becomes tightly furled from the centre and is then tied back to adjacent brush with a slip loop ready for the next banding session. And again, the net tags are collected and returned to the board and checked by the bander in charge at the end of the session. A view of our Hummingbird trap and feeders. These are mounted on bear-proof poles, as we have bears in the park, and raised and lowered with a pulley system when we're trapping. No banding station is complete without its own spa, and the Vark Spa has an eco-friendly incinerating toilet for visitors. All joking aside, the most important part of any banding operation is the safety and welfare of the birds, and the Banders Code of Ethics states that more than anything else, banders are responsible for the safety and welfare of the birds they study. Some basic rules are set out here, but at VARC our station protocol starts and finishes with the well-being of every bird being our top priority at all times.